And today with us, we have a very renowned educationist and a change maker, Ms. Rakhee Chhabria. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining in. Devi Sansthan welcomes you with gratitude and with a lot of expectations and a lot of curiosity to talk about, to discuss, and to know a lot many facets of literacy and teaching. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you, Ashutosh. My pleasure to be here on the platform. Yeah.
So before we move on to questions and discussions and interacting with Ma'am Rakhi, I'd like to give a quick introduction to the personality she is. An educationist at heart, learner, and a circle breaker, Ms. Rakhi completed her diploma in early childhood education in 2001. She then went on to teach for 4 years at the Arya Vidya Mandir School in Bombay, and her desire to make a difference in the lives of her learners has always made her pursue bigger and better goals. She completed her master's in special education from SNDT Juhu, and she taught children with autism and learning disabilities. She has worked on multiple research papers and research projects. Her research paper on autism has been published by Intech, which is an open forum for research articles and citations. Rakiji has also founded Sai Ediserve in the year 2009 to develop inclusive content and curriculum for preschools, along with training teachers for the same. And through there, she went on to teacher training and education. Having closely understood the pain points of other educators and her colleagues, so forth, she has founded Teachers Help Teachers, an exclusive community for educators to share and learn from each others. The success of Teachers Help Teachers has been so big so far that it has today, at the moment, it has more than 20,000 educators upskilling themselves and growing together. Her aim is to impact the lives of 1 million educators across the country and beyond, and we wish her very much luck for the same purpose. With more than 18 years of experience as an educator and being a mother of two boys, currently she's pursuing her passion as a social entrepreneur and empowering the lives of many educators. Rakiji, I hope we could cover a lot about you in that small introduction, and thank you so much for
It was
joining.
more than enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Today, the discussion is around the topic of how educators and training purposes can obviously escalate and help literacy in a lot many regards. Rakiji, I'll start the conversation with a very larger contemporary question. Is the idea of your views on the current literacy rates in India and so forth the world? What kind of trend do you see in the literacy rates of the country and the world so forth?
So, thank you, Ashutosh. I think this sets the tone for our discussion because if we are discussing about literacy, then knowing and understanding, what is the literacy rate and how is it that teachers can play a role in helping and increasing the literacy rate. I think this discussion touches upon a variety of aspects. So when we talk about literacy rates, I think it's very important to understand that in a diverse country like India, the literacy rate is always going to fluctuate and it's always going to be different from one state to the other state. We all are aware of the challenges that we have faced, especially post pandemic. We all are aware that when it comes to literacy, even when it comes to a girl child going to a school, that itself is a challenge in many of the rural areas. So more or less, we are aware of the challenges, and hence talking about literacy being the main concern is something which we should be openly discussing on such platforms because I think even though the government is taking efforts,
Right.
till the time the community as a whole comes together and in the form of we have various NGOs that are already working and they are doing great work, but till we see a collective change, literacy is always going to remain a challenge.
Absolutely.
uh, we know that with the NEP, the focus is on foundation literacy and numeracy, so that by the age of 9, we are able to achieve the basic foundation literacy goal, and that's something that we are set to achieve by 2026. Now, we are not sure whether those goals are going to be achieved, but at least penning down such goals and documenting the numbers behind these goals is where a beginning is made. And I think we've already made a beginning with the help of
Right.
everybody that has come in. So we all are very hopeful that the foundation literacy is something that we're going to definitely see a change in the coming years.
Right. When you speak of foundational literacy, let's talk about that a little bit more with regards to foundational literacy and numeracy, the FLN, something that Devi Sansthan also focuses on with our accelerated learning for all, the alpha pedagogy. Why do you think there is a need for the focus on FLN, and is the reason of that focus, the focus on foundational learning of literacy and numeracy, do you think the reason is rooted somewhere in rote learning as well? Like, where do you place the onus of foundational learning there?
Well, I think that the answer is within the question as well. When we talk about FLN, and why is there a need to actually to talk about it is if we've heard about the ACER reports, then ACER clearly states that when it comes to the foundation numeracy literacy rate, especially post pandemic, because of the huge learning loss that we as a country faced, because we knew that we were the last ones to open our schools. So, owing to this, there has been a hefty learning loss, huge learning loss, and then this has been further aggravated by the digital divide. Now,
Correct.
combining these two, we are already seeing a huge loss in terms of the FLN. Uh, However, I would say that rote learning to to a certain extent has contributed, because the education system that we had way back, which was brought into our country by Lord Thomas. So he came into our country and he set up the education system with the sole objective of developing individuals to become followers of instructions. So
Right.
so his objective was very corrective, was very correct, and he achieved his objective. But however, over a period of time, we have not adapted very well to new systems, and we have stuck to the old ones, traditional methods, because we felt that if it worked for us, it will work for them as well. So that's where I think the resistance of the education system and the resistance of educators comes in way, where we feel that okay, if I have come up this way and I'm doing well in life, then why should I change those methods for the learners of today? So resistance also comes in the way. And when we talk about rote learning, I think yes, the way things had been taught, uh, things are changing. Definitely, they are changing. Even in government school, a lot of good work is being done. A lot of NGOs that are partnering with government school, a lot of private schools that are partnering with government school to introduce new methodologies. So all those changes are happening. We are seeing those changes. However, in a country like India, yes, we would say that the change is happening at a very slow pace.
Absolutely. And I think, like, just to add to that, I think something like foundational learning has been uh, so much present, but also so much absent throughout in a developing country like India. That today there is a need of that foundational literacy coming through, but maybe with better approaches, maybe not with the age-old approach of sitting in a classroom with like 40 plus students and just going ahead with the lecture,
So
right? Like,
I don't know. 40 plus student is a reality, ground reality, Ashutosh, because wherever you go, even in the rural areas, you will not see 40, you will see 80, 60 students in the classroom.
absolutely.
And I think hats off to those teachers who, despite all the challenges, manage to maneuver around and teach them and hold them back so that there are no dropouts. So that by itself is a bigger challenge, and I think that requires a separate discussion altogether.
Right.
I don't think that the teacher student ratio is anywhere close to being corrected. But what I think we can do is we can definitely make use of technology to help the teachers, and to bring in innovative methods, because one teacher is to 60 students is something which is never going to solve the problem. It's only going to increase the
Absolutely.
problem. But with the help of technology, we can definitely solve such problems. Yeah.
So somewhere down the line, we're reaching there.
Yeah.
Slowly but
Definitely.
gradually, we are reaching there.
Yep.
This makes me wonder of a very interesting idea of how and what kind of shape the modern education system because of rote learning or because of what FLN has provided us, all these methods of teaching and all these methods of educating, how far or what shape uh, do you think has the modern education system taken up? Like, where do you see the role of a teacher in all of this? Since now we'll be talking about education and educators, where do you see that?
Role of a teacher, I think it's very, very crucial because today teachers are no longer meant to come into the classroom to impart information, because that's something that Google has already taken care of.
Right.
Today teachers wear different hats, and they are supposed to be problem solvers themselves, because the kind of challenges that you face in one classroom, today when I enter into the classroom, when a teacher enters into the classroom, if there are 25 students, all 25 students are functioning at varied levels. And this
Correct.
is something which is very clear in the mind of the educator. And there, there she's standing and trying to cater to each and every child's need, because there are 25 different needs that need to be met within that 1 hour. Because
Absolutely.
no child can be at the same pace. Some children will probably be fast, some children will be slow, some children will catch up with time. So the teacher has to accordingly provide that kind of scaffolding to the learners in the classroom. Now with so many permutation combinations and so much of differentiation that she needs to cater to, her role definitely becomes very, very important. When we talk about literacy, numeracy, that's where I think the government also has played a crucial role when it comes to inclusion of early childhood education in the formal education system. So
Correct.
that has been one of the biggest achievements so far, where we have finally recognized that if we are to look at increasing the literacy rate, the foundation literacy and numeracy rate, we need to start catering to the students right from the younger age of 3 years. And that's where the inclusion of early childhood education into formal education has happened. So these initiatives do push and help to achieve the goals that have been set. Having said that, teachers need to be actually on their toes. So, in terms of upskilling, in terms of understanding the new technology, in terms of understanding new approaches to learning, in terms of understanding the policy changes, teachers really need to know it all in order to kind of cater and provide to the needs of the students. So, definitely, teachers' role cannot be undermined in if we were to achieve this foundation literacy literacy rate by 2026.
Very well said, Rakiji, on that. I'd like to pick out something that you mentioned about, the idea of a teacher being on their toes and a teacher being the sort of provider or the handholder for things. Uh, do you think that the role of a teacher in this particular context of being a provider or being a helper, so to speak, has come to be redefined more as a galvanizer or somebody who can make things easier for students but not really spoon feed them?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the idea of teachers spoon feeding children like that?
Yeah, I think this thought itself requires a mindset change, because when we were talking about rote learning, so if we're following the age-old methodology and we are focusing on rote learning, then there the teacher becomes the spoon feeder, because that's
Correct.
where everything is put on the plate for the student, and the student is expected to by heart it all, and then of course vomit it out in the examination center. But now that the teacher's role is more of a facilitator, it requires a mindset change where the teacher has to be comfortable with the chaos in the classroom, because when the teacher hands over the control to the students and focuses on the learning from the student's perspective rather than the teacher's perspective, she has to be okay with the chaos that's going to happen. She has to be okay with losing control. And that's something that many of the educators are not really willing to give up. So I think
Right.
it's the innate nature, to get into the classroom and take charge and take control of whatever is happening. probably for the fear, of what the others would say if my classroom is in a chaos, or if the principal walks in, what is it that he or she going to tell me, that what's happening in your classroom, and students are just talking, and what are you doing? You're just standing there and watching them. So are you really doing your job well? So
Correct.
a lot of myth, a lot of because I would say that a classroom that's buzzing with noise, and constructive noise, is a classroom that's learning, because that's where they are engaging, and that's where the teacher is actually willing to give up that control and allow students to take charge of their own learning. And I believe that when we start doing this, when we start giving control to our learners and allow them to take charge, we will definitely see a shift in the way educators function. And I would say that it will also lead to educators being less stressed out in the classroom, because their job would be limited to providing them with challenging projects, situations, and then just being a spectator and facilitating those discussions in the right direction.
Absolutely. I think the idea that you need to let the child be curious enough. You need
It's
to
very
let
difficult. Yeah, it's very
very,
difficult
very
to have
important.
control.
And I mean, if I give my personal example, I've actually just, it's been like what, I think six something years that I've graduated from school, so it's pretty recent, not that old. So maybe I would not go to the conventionals of teaching or learning. But I think even just 6 years ago, even like in say bigger schools, or like bigger institutions, all of them, they focus on this very strict and very shaped up idea of what education could be, of what, if we have to work on this child as a teacher, what are we going to work on? A, B, and C. Not like, okay, let us sit with this child, let us gain what they know, or let us be informed about what they can see or do, right? But it's more than that, I feel. Don't you think this goes beyond the idea of just topping the class or being the front bencher? In those regards, where do you place that?
Yeah, I think the higher goal of education is collaboration. We are
Absolutely.
talking about the 21st century learning skills, and we've been talking about it since I don't know how many years now, and we're still talking about it, and we're still focusing on it. But I think most of it is already being done in many schools. But what needs to be now the focus is collaboration, because what the schools of today are doing, we're preparing students to face the competitive world. Even we parents, we freak out with the thought that, okay, if my child goes to an alternative schooling system, how is the child going to adjust into this competitive world? It's a fierce competition. We have those kind of thoughts, we have those kind of fears. That's because we know majority of the population is going to stem from this conventional system, where competition is going to be the core value rather than collaboration. So that's what kind of is a cause of concern today, where even though people talk about collaboration, it really becomes difficult to come down to that level and understand that what is it that we can do together. We see so many schools around us. We talk about visiting Finland, but have we spoken about visiting our neighboring schools? Have we spoken about that? Do we have a field
Absolutely.
trip where we take our teachers to our neighboring school and let them see what they are doing? Do we invite their teachers or their students to our school to see what we are doing? So, till the time we are not open about these kind of visits and these kind of sharing of resources, so I'll give you my example that I started my website, Teachers Help Teachers, in 2018, and the whole idea was to help educators come up on the platform, share the resources, and create a kind of a democratic learning platform for teachers, where they can save their time and by downloading the resource, and of course it becomes like a starting point for them to actually start teaching, rather than
Right.
on Google for hours and hours. Now, it was so difficult for me to convey this idea to the educators, especially before pandemic, because they had fears and they had thoughts like, how, if I register on the platform, will it be safe, and questions like these before pandemic, which of course post pandemic, these questions were all sorted by itself. So it took me a lot of time to help educators understand the importance of having such a platform and how this platform can actually serve all the teachers together. So
Right.
imagine if there's something that I've created which can be made available to a teacher sitting in one rural area. I mean, that's going to benefit him or her. Then why not come up and share it? And if you don't want to share it, you want to sell it, you can sell it. That's up to you. So ideas like these, they really need a lot of push. They really need a lot of convincing, and that's where I think we get tired, and because the adaptation becomes so difficult. Yeah.
Right. I'd like to pick up something that you mentioned about the idea of not competition but collaboration. So that's a very interesting take to, sort of also mold the students as per, not to say mold, but also give a direction to the students of being more and more collaborative. Because I think what we are promoting as teachers, I think what we're promoting is this idea that child, or you can, you can always do better, you can always be the, this idea, this keeps on just running in my mind as well, that this competitive behavior that we kind of keep promoting as teachers, uh, while we turn this into a collaboration, or while we turn into, okay, sure, if your friend is not being able to solve a question, you collaborate with them, you help them solve that question, instead of, okay, being, competitive, that, okay, I can solve it and you can't, right? And I think that's where the role of an educator also comes in, as the collaborator or as the facilitator to this group of students, this bunch of students. Because as I mean, as we've been discussing earlier as well, that modern education system has become so much of teacher and child centric in a dynamic that they don't allow for collaboration to happen. So I think that's where, don't you think that that's where we sort of should explore more ideas with regards to promoting this collaboration instead of competition?
Yeah, I think progressive schools. There are many progressive schools that I see. I have visited, and I know that they foster collaboration, and the students are collaborating with students abroad and students across India. So
Right,
it's really a sight to see, and I think the school culture is determined by the people who run the school, the principal and the management, who are there to back up and support such initiatives. So a lot depends on the school culture, I would say, if collaboration was as a skill was to foster. So that's where I think the role of a leader comes in, where it's the support of the leader that allows the teachers to actually be free and initiate different ways of teaching in the classroom without the fear of being questioned. So a
right,
lot has got to do with how much are the teachers given freedom, and how much is the trust that the system in the school has in the teachers. So if these two are in place, I think teachers can really do a wonderful job. Teachers
absolutely.
by nature are creative, and especially when teachers get together, magic happens, because there's so many thoughts that come together, so many ideas that come together. So I don't think that we fall short of ideas. What I feel the problem lies in fostering these skills is that the teachers themselves are not given the freedom to initiate, and if at all they do, they are also stopped by their peers, because many a times, especially in schools, state board schools, or for that matter, many other schools where we have seen that there are educators who are senior most, and they are the ones who actually discourage the others who are taking these kind of initiatives. So yeah, it could be internal politics, and there are a whole lot of reasons for the teacher to not pursue the cause. But having
Right.
said that, if the teacher is really passionate, and if he or she really wants to bring about a change, nothing can stop him or her. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's where the onus also comes on the teacher, but also on the structure or the management, so to speak. Because a management, a better structure, better policies, or better management could obviously produce better teachers. That, in a sense, in conclusion, can obviously lead to better students and better children, better education at large, right? So, before we actually delve into what Teachers for Teachers is and what teachers help teachers, I'm really that, like, really know what this initiative is all about and what they do. I'd like to also know from you, do you think there are better ways, or there are, maybe refined ways of getting responses out of children in the class? Or do you think there are better ways to engage as an educator? Would you like to underline some of them for our audiences?
Yeah, I think I would definitely agree that there are various ways in which teachers can, engage students, especially today, with the help of technology. Because with technology coming in, there's so much that can be made possible into the classroom. We talk about gamifying the learning experiences, bringing in quizzes and bringing in these kind of platforms where they can conduct polls with the students, they can conduct surveys. So there's a whole lot of possibility with the help of tech tools. And that's where I think the engagement of the student can be seen increasing. And apart
Right.
from technology, in case the schools are not able to onboard technology, I think the project-based learning methodology, where we involve students in group work, and every group is given a different project to do. That itself not only takes care of collaboration, but it also takes care of the student taking charge and understanding and diving deeper into the concept with the help of his or her peers, while the teacher is the guiding force behind these projects. So I think project based learning is has so far been one of the best methods of getting the teachers to get the students to learn something by taking charge of it rather than enforcing the learning on them. So,
Right.
project based learning methodology is something which can definitely go a long way. Apart from that, providing hands on learning experiences to our students. Now, especially nowadays, we see so many kits available where students can actually experience those hands on learning in terms of science. They can actually experience the scientific principle with the help of the kits being made available. So there's a whole lot of material, there's a whole lot of tech, there are a whole lot of YouTube videos for that matter. That's something which can be shown to the students as well. So I think in today's time, to engage students uh, per se is not as big a challenge as to catch hold of their attention. Because
Absolutely.
the attention span, especially post pandemic, has really taken a toll. And it's said that the attention span of an adult has gone down to as low as 6 seconds, which is almost lower than the attention span of a goldfish. So I think that's where we are struggling today to hold on. And when a teacher is supposed to take a period of, let's say, 60 minutes, that's where I think it becomes overwhelming for the students if it is done in a monotonous way. So
Absolutely.
that's how we are struggling today to bring in those kind of methodologies.
Yeah, I think also because how much of, I mean, so to speak, the benefits of technology, so to speak, the the good parts of technology, but we
Rather
can't
than
really also ignore the gray side of it, right? We can't really ignore the fact that okay, it is sort of hampering in a way where children are getting more and more addicted towards it.
yeah.
So
And
all the
also,
attention span that was there is going towards there. I'm sorry.
mm,
Yeah.
and also that you spoke about curiosity. I just feel that the more students are exposed to technology, the lesser curiosity I see. I think that's my personal opinion. But you see a child. A child by nature is going to ask you questions,
Correct.
and child is curious. The child wants to know everything. It's going to keep on asking questions. It's the parent or the teacher at the other end who feels tired, and that's where we resort to giving them the screen time so that we can have a breather, and we can be saved from those questions. But actually what we're doing is we're curbing the curiosity of the child by actually putting them in front of the screen. So even when we go to
Correct.
any movie theater, malls, where you go, you see the parents are nowadays giving a mobile. They're putting a screen in front of them so that the parent can conveniently feed the child to his or her satisfaction levels and not to the child's satisfaction levels. And that site is so irritating, believe me, Ashutosh. I just feel that we're curbing the sense of understanding, the capability to sense when they are full. So we're actually
Right.
keeping them from their senses, because their senses are not put into use because of being stuck to technology, being addicted to technology. So I think that's where the curiosity also will definitely play a big role.
Absolutely, absolutely. For all of you joining to watch the live, also before we move on to further discussions, please do feel free to put on your questions in the chat box. We'd be happy to discuss them. We'd be happy to take them with Ms. Rakhi. And coming back to our discussion of the curiosity, because it is always said that a child is usually the most curious brain, the most curious mind, to ask questions. And we can never kind of give this false hope or this negativity to children when they are curious, right? Because you always have to give an answer in such a way that the child also understands, but also doesn't make an opinion or a wrong opinion or a wrong thought about something, right? So, in that regard, something that comes to my brain as a very important aspect of curiosity is how peer learning sort of helps it, right? Like, say, if we two are students and we two are sitting together, uh, you asking me a question about what the teacher is teaching will essentially clear your doubts better than possibly me gaining that sort of uh, gravitas around me and then going ahead and being like, oh, tell me this doubt. So maybe I'd rather better ask the question to the person sitting next on my bench, to instead of going ahead and making it a public discussion. So do you think that this peer learning that comes into picture, this idea of curiosity through peer learning, do you think this helps better in gaining literacy or education in the larger picture, and making children more aware of what's happening around?
Yes, peer learning is definitely a fantastic concept. And I think when it comes to peer learning, uh, the students from the higher grades must be encouraged to teach the students from the lower grades,
Right.
because when we teach, we ourselves learn. And it's the Feynman technique, where if you were to learn something, you know, you got to explain it to a 3-year-old child. And if the 3-year-old child understands, which means you yourself have understood. So that's where the principle comes into existence. That if we were to engage, the older students to teach the younger ones, and that will help them understand what exactly they know and where they are stuck. And also, when it comes to seeking help of my peer and reaching out to my peers, I don't think there will be any hindrance when I see my group members helping each other out. That kind of reduces a whole lot of stigma that is associated when it comes to asking for help. But when
Correct.
it is normalized, I'm not going to feel that, oh, I'm the only one who did not understand. Everybody else understood. So that stigma which gets created, and also the fear that the child internalizes in the classroom, that, oh, if I ask the teacher, she will just say, okay, I'll let you know later, or she just tell me to shut up. So these kind of fears that the child has, that also comes in way of learning. So if we
Hmm.
inculcate this, and we normalize it, peer-to-peer learning, collaborative learning, which many schools are doing today, then it fosters healthy learning in the classroom. As I said, that the school culture, the school climate, the school leader, everything plays an important role along with the teacher. So I think it's the whole school that can contribute towards this kind of culture.
Absolutely. Something I'd like to mention very interestingly here is what Devi Sansthan does in this regard. So when we go to schools and when we teach them alpha, when we teach them about the accelerated learning process and the pedagogy, what we try to prioritize it is that the students, they sort of figure out the solutions by themselves.
Yeah,
They sit in pairs. We give them a problem. They sit in. We first give them a reference of how to solve this problem.
yeah.
Then they sit in pairs, and then they sort of solve the questions. But more than solving the questions, they also create more questions for themselves, which is to say that there is a sense of larger curiosity to, okay, I will help you, but I will also help you in creating more questions so that there is a larger understanding in the brain, right?
So
So
true, so well said. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Because just the other day in the classroom, we gave these math questions to fourth graders. It was basically investigation questions, math investigation, where we just wanted them to play around with math, and not really get into the operations. I mean, paper pencil task. So we gave them these problems on sheets, task sheets, and we told them that each one will work out the logic behind.
Correct.
And once you are done working out the logic, you get hold of somebody else who's also done, share that with one another. So you share your logic with your peer, the peer shares his or her task and logic with you. You get to learn both the operations. You get to explore and learn, and then also you get to check whether your logic is correct, whether you have understood the sum, whether you've understood the task. So it becomes a great way of learning, and here the teacher actually gets a chance to observe, to facilitate, to understand that okay, which child needs help and how is it that I can provide that scaffolding. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that sort of process also empowers the classroom more than, more than anything else. Because if a student who's the main, concern or the audience of the classroom, if they are getting this peer learning process to experience, if they are getting to experience, making problems and solving them all together, I think what they become is more self-reliant and self-aware at large, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and picking up from there, also this reminds me that every educator in that regard is also a learner, because every educator or every teacher who's making somebody learn things is also learning. And you mentioned it earlier in our discussion as well, which makes me again move to now the concluding part of this discussion, which is us talking about teachers help teachers. Would you like to take all our audiences through what the initiative is, what you have been up to, and what are some examples that you would want to maybe give to our audiences for this?
Sure. Thank you for this question. So, Teachers Help Teachers is one of the largest organization of educators across India. And here the main aim is to help teachers learn from one another, to upskill themselves. And also when it comes to finding job opportunities, owing to the numbers that we have, it becomes easy for us to place teachers into the right schools as per their skills. So, when it comes to partnering with schools, we provide schools with curriculum, we provide schools with teachers. When it comes to partnering with teachers, we understand their upskilling needs, we provide them with those kind of curated courses and master classes. And having said that, after doing all these things, we realize that now there is a need to actually uh, form a structure, because all this while we were doing it through Facebook groups, through WhatsApp communities, but now there has come the time that we need to give it a structure, we need to provide a body to it. And that's how right now we are headed in those directions, where we're trying to create a subscription based model out of it, where we want to invite educators who are passionate about learning and who are passionate about sharing their knowledge with other educators, the peer-to-peer learning platform that we have created ourselves. So that's where we are inviting teachers that okay, come join our platform. You can share your knowledge, you can share resources. You can learn from the community. Or there are events that happen, there are retreats that happen, and the whole focus out here is the teacher, her personal development, his or her personal development, along with the professional development, because I believe that there can be no professional development without personal development. So if
Absolutely.
I'm not mentally at peace, and I'm kind of scattered all around, I can't get into the classroom and teach effectively. So for me to teach effectively, first I need to understand that how is it that I can clear the clutter from my mind and then be effective in what I'm doing. So there are various aspects, even when it comes to financial goals. We help educators understand how they can manage the financial goals, how they can manage their finance. So there are a whole lot of aspects which we try to cover on our community and educate the educators about these aspects, so that they can achieve their potential and become more effective teachers. Yeah.
That's a very interesting initiative, first of all, and I think also beyond that, it's also a very great way to sort of bring everything together, everybody together on one platform. Which is to say that
It's a huge challenge.
yes, it is a huge challenge, but I mean, as we can see, it's been what I think more than 10 years that the platform has been there.
It's been more than 2019 is where I incorporated the company. So it's been the Facebook group has been around since 2016. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
So it's almost maybe like 5+ years to
Yeah,
that, and more than 5 years, and I think many more years to come. Come.
thank
I would like to know some instances that possibly some practices or some exercises that you do with teachers
you. Yeah.
through teachers help teachers that might end up transforming literacy or might end up transforming the global dream.
That's wonderful. In fact, during the pandemic, I think in
Yeah.
2021, we did a literacy fest where on a platform online, where the focus was, of course, on understanding diverse cultures, and also to understand how students can be exposed to these diverse cultures and languages. So it was a beautiful fest where we got in 20 different speakers across the globe, and because everything was online at that point in time, so we took advantage of that. We got in fantastic speakers, who shared, their culture, their language, the country from where they come, and it was basically, providing to that kind of knowledge to the teachers, which could then be imparted to the students. So we have those YouTube video. We have a playlist of all those sessions, which is available on our YouTube channel,
Oh, wow.
where I think it was a 2 month literacy fest that we ran, and it was mainly to encourage educators to develop the love for languages, because we covered, I think, 10 languages through that entire fest, and each and every speaker got with them a beautiful blend of not only the language but the culture, and the food, and the festivals. I mean, it was all interwoven beautifully. So that's something that we had curated in 2021, and we wish to curate many such events, in the future as well. And in fact, one is in the pipeline. The fest is something that we are looking forward to in the month of Jan. So definitely, we are definitely passionate about helping educators develop the love for learning. And so this was one of the initiatives. Apart from that, we post, meetups with educators, where whichever city we are in, we go and we announce a meetup, and we meet the educators at a coffee shop. We understand, we listen, and we kind of collaborate, and then we form small communities in those specific cities, so that those communities can then meet up and solve each other's problems. So these are the small things, initiatives that we have been doing over the past 1.5 year, so that rather than being dependent on the platform, the small clubs that we are forming can actually start taking care of that particular city, and the need of those teachers. So that's where we are coming. Yeah, that's where we are moving forward to.
It's such a great concept because I think for literacy, as much as looking or focusing at children is
Yeah,
important for education or transforming education, as everybody uses big words like transformation and uh, escalation and all of that. For all of that, as much as it is important for children to grasp and gain the knowledge, I think it is even more important so for educators because they become agents and something like teachers help teachers. I'm pretty sure that it becomes a platform for so many teachers and more than 20,000 so who can come here, can collaborate, can talk about their issues, and even if nothing as simple as sharing their concerns of a classroom.
absolutely. So recently we did a meet and greet with the educators from Hyderabad, and I think we were around 10 to 12 educators who showed up. But the amount of sharing that happened, and the kind of collaboration that I saw, they're already collaborating and they're visiting each other's schools. In fact, one got a job in somebody's school because they connected. Somebody needed a teacher, and that's where they connected. So so many problems are getting solved just by one meetup. So you can imagine if these kind of clubs and meetups happen, more often, and across different cities. So so much can be taken care of within those cities itself. So I think the beauty and the magic of the platform lies in collaboration, and that's where, and also you know kind of getting the teachers to take charge of solving each other's problem, rather than they being dependent on a body or dependent
Right.
on policy changes, because we also understand that policy changes are something which are not in our control, and that's something that we'll have to wait it out. But what is in our control is to collaborate with another educator. What is in our control is to create that kind of atmosphere in our own city, where we invite like-minded educators, and once we have a group of like-minded educators, more and more are going to join. Yeah,
Absolutely. And as it is said that it takes a village to bring a change, but that village needs to have somebody who sort of starts the initiative. I
Yes.
think you and Teacher Helps Teachers have been those agents of change, have been those, initiators of change. Because as much as I'd like to mention it again and again, that even if children are the most important aspect of literacy and transforming education, educators are equally an important part of it, and they also become real facilitators of literacy for this regard.
Absolutely. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know it has been a wonderful discussion with you, Rakiji,
Thank you so much.
and I am really grateful to you for taking out time. Before we close this discussion, anything that you'd like to tell our audiences at Devi Sansthan, and something regarding accelerating learning?
Yes, I would definitely. This is one principle that I abide by, which unfortunately I learned late in life. That you got to invest in yourself to be able to grow and see the change. Because till the time you don't invest in your own self, you can't really expect changes to happen around you. So that's one principle that I abide by, and even though it came late, so that's something that I would like to share with the audience. And when it comes to accelerated learning, I think teachers play a crucial role. We have already discussed about how the literacy rate can actually be enhanced with the help of educators, and also community development or community involvement that can help enhance
Right.
the literacy rate, where private public partnership can come handy, and even local NGOs can come handy. Local NGOs like y'all can come handy, and this is where I think the collective responsibility of the onus should be on the people to equally be charged about it, rather than just the reports, because merely reading the numbers in the reports and feeling sad about it is not going to help. If there is something that we can do, if I can, sitting in my house, educate my maid's child, I am taking care of the literacy rate. I am catering towards the goal of foundation literacy and numeracy, because I know that the child cannot afford tuitions, while a majority can. So again, there's a huge divide that's coming between students who can take tuitions and who cannot afford tuition. So if I, as an individual, can contribute my own bit in my spare time, in doing that much, I think I've done my job. And if I'm doing my job well, uh, you know, uh, I'm sure that things are happening around, and the change will happen. Because looking at me, maybe somebody else is getting inspired, and looking at someone, maybe I can get inspired. So I think we need to now start looking at our own self, that where is it I can contribute in my own way, in my circle, that can lead to a small bit change. So I think that's where I would like to
Absolutely.
rest it.
Absolutely. And I think even though change is very, very gradual and very eventual, so to speak, it
Absolutely.
is invincible, and it will always, always come. It will always happen.
Absolutely. I think you
Hoping,
got to do your own bit.
hoping that literacy, education, and all the educators around do watch this, do take a lot of inspiration from this and from you and from your work.
Thank
It's
you.
been a real great pleasure to host you on a live, and thank you so much everybody who joined. You can watch this video on YouTube as well, and do subscribe to our channels on social media and YouTube as well.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for joining. Thank you, Rakiji, for joining, and giving all your insights and giving all the cooperation that we could have asked for. We're really, really grateful.
Same here. Thank you so much. I hope I've been able to contribute something. And yeah, these kind of discussions are really needed for communities, where it becomes it gives us a chance to reflect. Yeah. Thank you so
Abs-
much. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, with that, signing off. Bye bye, everybody. See you next time.